Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Borders. Of course, I'm Mike Ginn. That's Extremo Alex Soto. Got a great episode for you today. We're still a couple weeks out of LUX 21, so we're going to profile a couple fighters that are going to be featured on that card. One of my personal favorites, and then also the headliner as well. So we'll talk about that. We will briefly talk about the Cain Velasquez situation, not too deeply because it's still evolving, but we will get our opinions on that. Of course, go over to FightersFirst.shop, get all the latest, greatest merch. Alex finally rocking his shirt. Look at that dope wear right there. Alex, tell him how it feels.
Hey, it's silky. It's awesome. It's the athletic fit. I like it, man. I love it. Thanks, man.
Awesome. And I do want to announce real quick. I announced the Art of MMA yesterday. Coming up on March 15th, we are going to be doing some more retro style clothing. Alex has been pushing for it. A number of people have been pushing for it. I've always been really into that style as well. So for the spring summer collection for Fighters First, we're going to do a lot more retro style. So the Fighters collections will add stuff to it. We're not going to take anything away, but all the graphic collections will be kind of changing over to a new style for the spring and summer. So check that out, March 15th. I'm working on everything. Y'all know I'm a perfectionist, so I'm not going to release it until it's done. But we will get that out around March 15th. Alex, you ready to hop into this show?
Let's do it.
All right. So we talked about a little bit yesterday on the network on Art of MMA. Breaking news on Monday. Cain Velasquez, obviously, MMA legend, former UFC heavyweight champion, obviously Mexican-American, brown pride, 100% his roots in San Jose born and bred. He was involved in a shooting just outside San Jose in Morgan Hill. What we know for fact, there was a gentleman, I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to give him publicity. I know a lot of people have put the guy out there, accused of sexually assaulting a close relative of Cain's. A lot of rumors is that it's his 4-year-old son, but we do not know that for a fact. But it was a very close relative of Cain. The person was put on bail, released supervised supervision, and was on his way to get his ankle monitor. Cain Velasquez followed him for about 11 miles, engaging in, ramming the car, shooting at the car. According to the police reports in the court hearing yesterday, 3 shots were fired out of Cain's registered handgun, his semi-automatic handgun. He did not hit the intended target. He hit the stepfather who was in the car with the intended person that was accused of the child sexual assault case, and his sister. So those 3 were in the car as a family. Cain was shooting, trying to obviously probably hit, I'm assuming probably trying to hit the person who did him wrong and get revenge, as any father would. Let me put this out there right now. If that was my daughter, I'd be in jail for a long time too. So I think a lot of parents understand. But unfortunately, Cain did hit the wrong person. So that's a lot more legal ramifications going on. Alex, what do you know of the situation, and what's your whole opinion on it?
Well, being a father, myself, dude, I think everybody's showing support for Cain Velasquez all throughout social media. Everybody in the industry is supporting Cain Velasquez, and then it's bringing that thought, that conversation, of something like that happening to your family member or one of your kids, man. It's like a darkness just comes out of anger of what you would do to somebody who hurts your child like that. So, I think we can all relate to Cain Velasquez's situation, and so we're giving out the support, and I think I'm on the same thing, man. I don't know what I would do, honestly. It sucks that Cain did that because now he's gonna be in jail for a long time. According to the facts, right? He didn't shoot the perpetrator, but he did hit the perpetrator's father. So he shot somebody else. He shot a gun in a moving vehicle. And essentially endangering the public, right? So you were mentioning before the show started that even if if his, he won't go to jail if the father, is it the father or stepfather?
Stepfather, yeah.
Yeah, if the stepfather does not press charges, I mean, that dude's still going, Cain's still going to jail for endangering the public and shooting a gun in within city limits.
Yeah, I think most people, like you said, most people as a father understand. Or a mother, father, mother, whatever the case is. You understand you're protecting, Ronda Rousey came out today and defended Cain, the whole mama bear, papa bear. That's your family. That's your protection. You're responsible for protecting them. And it's two things, right? It's somebody did you wrong, and you almost feel a little bit of guilt because you weren't there to protect your child.
Yeah.
Now you put them in a situation like a daycare, you expect them to be in a safe environment. The daycare was run out of the mom's home. The person accused is 43 years old, lived in a different part of the house or an attachment to the house or something like that. Was only around the kids sporadically as is. The situation of allegedly involved going into a bathroom and touching. That's what we know through court documents. We don't know if he's guilty or innocent. It's really his word versus the kid's word. They're reaching out to other kids to see if they'll come forward as well. There's a lot of, hearsay going around to be polite, right? We don't know if he's guilty. We don't know if he's not guilty. And Cain took the law in his own hands, which is unfortunate. From a legal perspective, I think what you said is perfect. I think as a father, we would have done, or at least in our minds, I don't know how many people would actually do it, but in our minds, we would have done the same thing. We would have gone out and we'd be in jail for a very long time. Cain's facing up to 70 years in jail right now based on the charges.
Oh, shit, man.
They'll officially know on Monday whether he gets bail or not. I don't expect him to be released anytime soon because, like you said, he fired a weapon into endangering other public people.
Yeah.
That car chase lasted from the person's home where they were going to get an electric ankle monitor for their part of their condition of release to where the incident actually finished 11 miles later.
Oof, man.
So that's a long time. I do also have a question, like where the police were. If somebody's shooting and chasing somebody for 11 miles, how do you not get there by the time the thing ends, let alone have to go find Cain a couple miles away to arrest him?
Yeah.
That's 11 miles across city limits.
Yeah.
Where was the police? That whole thing could have been prevented, and maybe the stepfather's never shot, and at that point, it's just Cain facing reckless endangerment charges. There's a lot of things going on that are way above my pay grade, like legally. But that's what we know. That you have to talk about it. He is a Mexican American, famous Mexican fighter. Have to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. It's very hard to talk about these legal issues when we don't know all the facts. I know a lot of fighters have gone on and said, we would have done the same thing. But the problem is, I think, Alex, this is the biggest problem I have with this whole story. People don't know the facts. They see a headline like Cain shot the person accused of molesting his son, right? Like that's what the story got broken out, and everybody's like, free Cain. But that's not actually what happened.
Yeah.
Cain may have been trying to, and we also don't know. Maybe the stepfather was involved in the whole thing. Maybe the whole family was involved in a whole circle of bad situations, right? So the stepfather could have been just as culpable as the person accused. We don't know that. Maybe Cain was shooting at all of them.
Exactly.
We don't know. We don't know. Maybe he did hit
who.
Yeah, maybe he hit who he was meant to. I don't know.
Yeah.
But until all the legal stuff comes out, I think we all got to chill. For one, he didn't shoot the person he was aiming at, allegedly. So that said, Cain's going to be in trouble. I don't want Cain to be in trouble for taking vigilante services any more than anybody else.
Yeah.
As a father, I don't want him to be in trouble.
We should there should be some sort of parting or something, man, because he's it's just the situation. I guess once it evolves, before you get out and start really, backing up somebody that you don't know the entire facts of yet, but still, God, what an awful thing. What an awful thing to
that's
go,
what the media does, though, right? And social media, right? You take
exactly.
one headline and you run with it. And Cain's always been a good dude. He's always been quiet. He's always been respectful. He's always been a nice guy.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to see that side of Cain, especially him in jail. But unfortunately, there's no way he's going to get pardoned because they're not going to cut the president.
Here's what I thought. Like when I was having the conversation, when I was talking about it with some friends of mine, it's like, wait a minute, you're Cain Velasquez. You're the freaking heavyweight champion of the world. 2 times. Like you could have just squashed this guy. Like, why even bring a gun into this?
Yank his ass up out of the car and beat the shit out of him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have the most amazing arsenal of weaponry with just your bare hands.
I think a lot of people thought that too.
I think everybody was saying, it's like, why didn't you just beat the living shit out of him?
There's no mistaken identity of who you shooting the wrong person, and you just snatch his ass up and do that.
Yeah.
And
unfortunately,
wait for him to get in the car and chase him when you could have just waited outside of his house and bang his door down.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he's probably thinking that right now. You know, he was acting out of rage and acting out of an opportunity. You know, because you don't know when they're going to come out. I don't even know how he found out that he got out, that the perpetrator was getting out. I think that's public information, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously he knew the case was coming up. Obviously he knew the person was in jail. And if it's that close of a personal person that we think it is, like possibly
Yeah,
his 4-year-old son, I'm sure he was very well aware. And the problem with Cain's defense right now is that the premeditated charge is in there. Out of the 10 charges he's facing, one of them's premeditated, which
yeah,
means it's not a case of rage. It's not temporary insanity. You planned this.
yep,
You
yep,
saw him get
exactly.
out of jail. You sat in your car and waited for him to get ready to go get his ankle monitor and chased him down trying to kill him
With your gun.
with your
Yeah,
gun. So,
yeah,
unfortunately, Kane's going to be serving a lot. I mean, if he gets guilty, he's going to serve a long time. And I feel horrible for him. I feel horrible for his family because now not only did the thing happen that happened allegedly, but now you're also losing the patriarch of the family, basically.
yeah. No, it's just terrible. Just a terrible, terrible situation, dude. This just sucks, man. Now that poor girl or his daughter or whoever that relative is, now like they're not gonna have him around, you know, because of this whole
Well, so
incident, you know.
so his daughter's a little older. His daughter, I think, is like 14 or so. His son is the young one that's under
Okay.
10, that's 4 years old.
Yeah,
So if
but
anything
even that,
happened, it was to his
fuck.
son. Allegedly, the situation is that he was having trouble going to the restroom, and the guy came in to help him, and may have touched him inappropriately. But then all of a sudden, the story morphed into like he might have touched him 100 times. So
Yeah, yeah,
there, you got to wait till the facts come out. But
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just a messed up situation.
yeah. It fucking sucks, man.
Anyway, my
All right,
prayers go
well
out to the
let's
whole Velasquez family because that's a lot to handle.
let's cover some Mexican MMA. What do you think, Mike?
All right, buddy, let's switch gears. You got a big event coming up in a couple weeks, LUX
Yeah.
21. But before we get there, we'll break that fight card down next week. But before we get there, assuming Alex isn't too busy for me.
Come on, man. You tell me. I'm here for you, buddy.
All right, buddy. I'll remember that next time you got a big meeting, and I'm like sitting there waiting for you. That's a little behind the scenes curtain pulling back for you guys.
There we go.
But there are a couple big fighters on that card. We kind of try to like take some time and profile some other fighters once in a while, let people know what's going on. But that fight card is headlined by Victoria Alba and Daniela Villasmil in the for the flyweight championship. So that one's been kind of building up for a little bit. Villasmil has a little bit more of a resume. She's 3-1 going against Alba, who's 1-0. So we decided to take a look at Villasmil. Maybe next week we'll break down Alba a little bit more and give them both a little bit of fair shine. But Villasmil, Venezuelan fighter.
Okay.
She is 28 years old. She's been around. Now this is her fourth professional fight on record. You know how that goes. But I have had the opportunity to watch a few of her fights. I'd like to get your opinion first. She's had a couple fights in Lux. She was in 14. She was on 17. Both were split decision wins. What's your opinion of her so far?
I think she's very strong, very powerful. We've seen her like pushing the opponents up against the cage, and she's very aggressive. So I mean, that's if there's like anything that's unique about Villasmil is that she stays on you. She's like a pit bull, man. So she'll put a lot of pressure on you, and in the long run, what tends to happen is she overcommits and gets countered and eats a lot of punches. And that was, I guess, I mean, honestly, if we look at both of the scorecards, those split decision wins at the flyweight division, you know, she's eating a lot of punches because of this kind of stylistic. She's just this style of fighting, coming in forward, head straight, not a lot of movement, and she's got a wrestling background too. So, and we haven't seen too much of her wrestling.
So I was going to say that it's funny, right? It's very funny. It's ironic funny because her only loss was to Jimenez. It was in her second fight, and you can see that fight on YouTube. And it's the exact opposite, right? If you watch that fight, she did nothing but circle to her right for 3
Yes.
rounds, like jump in and out, try to throw shots where Jimenez was sitting there controlling the center of the cage and basically landing the better shots. It wasn't until like later in the fight that Villasmil tried to do a takedown. You could see when they grappled, she was definitely like strong and she could do grappling, but she didn't do it, whether it was just because of her second fight and she was scared or whatever the case is. She's been a lifelong wushu fighter. She's the national champion, I think, in Venezuela for wushu,
Yeah.
which is a Chinese martial art if people don't know at home. So she's got that like kung fu, karate style background. So she likes to circle and she likes to land those kicks. Now, because she lost that fight to Jimenez, what you've seen the last 2 fights is that now all of a sudden she's coming forward because she doesn't want to lose that fight by being too careful, right? So
Yeah.
now she's going in and out. She's like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And she hasn't found, to me, she hasn't found that balance, right? That you find as a fighter experience to know how much is good to attack and how much is good to kind of focus on your strengths. And I think she's still figuring that out. She's only 4 fights in, so, and she's still kind of young. So to me, I think she could figure that out. And I think she definitely has the experience advantage against Alba coming up in this fight at LUX 21. But when you watch her, especially that loss, because I think you learn way more from a loss than you do anybody's wins, all she did was circle around for 3 rounds to the right, not even to the left, just always to the right. And instead of mixing that up, what she did was the last 2 fights, like you said, she came straight forward. Yeah. And there's got to be a balance, right? Like, you know that. Like, you were one of those fighters that came straight forward and tried to go for the kill. But as you got older and you learn certain things, you know there's a time. You know, we're about to see Masvidal and Covington come up this weekend. Oof. Sometimes Masvidal goes flying across the ring with a knee and knocks somebody out. Other times he's like, that's not going to work in this situation. Let me do this. And you see the difference in fighting, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. No, you can see a difference. And she's developing. And so that's what makes this fight, this main event, the flyweight division, really interesting. So when you get an opportunity, March 18th on UFC Fight Pass, you're going to be able to see
Monterrey, Mexico.
Hecho en Mexico with in Monterrey, Mexico is where it's going to be at. You're going to see that kind of development, that development of that striking, wrestling, and the wushu. How do you say it? Wushu, Chinese martial arts.
WUSHU.
Right. You're going to see that with her, right? She's going to start to you're going to start to see her kind of evolve into a better striker, a better all-around mixed martial artist. Which makes it really interesting because Victoria Alba is actually a Muay Thai champ, national WBC Muay Thai ISK Muay Thai champion. Like, she's been around, and when it comes in the striking game, she's very, very, very aggressive, very clean, very crisp type of fighting and style of her striking. So, stylistically speaking, I think this is a really interesting fight for Villasmil against Victoria Alba.
Yeah, Villasmil definitely better remember her wrestling background for this fight if she wants to have the advantage because, like you said, Alba's a champ, a Muay Thai champion, and she can strike. She can get you in that clinch. She's somewhere Villasmil has a strength advantage, but she doesn't have it against Alba because Alba's one of those girls that are just as big as she is. I think Villasmil's 5'6", Alba's 5'7", so just as strong. Obviously, both in the same weight class. It's going to be a fun fight. Definitely a fun fight.
Well, the issue here is the pressure, right? When you're fighting a Muay Thai guy, a Muay Thai fighter, you know, they want to stand up straight. They want to keep their distance, you know, and keep that jab in front of you, come in with an elbow, come up with a knee down the middle. So that Villasmil pressure is going to really push Alba off her game, right? So it's that coming in, right? It's that counter striking of Alba that's going to kind of dictate, you know, who's going to win this fight. You know, it's the aggression. Is Villasmil going to overwhelm Alba on the way in for this for the championship belt? We'll have to see, man. So stay tuned.
Yeah, and it'll also be decided. Like, she hasn't faced a girl like Alba before, so let's see what kind of style she fights this fight. Maybe she goes back to trying to stay on the outside. Like, we've only seen 2 fights in a row where she's come forward. The other 2 fights she did nothing but stay on the outside.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see what she does with this one. It's going to be a fun fight. It's definitely headlining the card. So we'll see the women's flyweight championship on the line. Another fight I want to take a look at. You guys know if you all have watched this show, I love watching Xolo Pena. Like, this dude, he's had, I think, like 3 fights now in LUX, and he just come forward. He has like a couple ground and pound finishes. He has that split decision win against Manzano last time, which if you watch that fight, you can go watch it on YouTube right now.
It's fun.
3 rounds of non-stop rock'em sock'em robot action.
Yes.
I never had any debate. I know you were a little hesitant when we talked about this when the fight first happened over the decision. I never had any debate that Xolo won because, to me, Manzano had like the cleaner shots, but Xolo was just always pushing the pace. He was always coming after him. He was always trying to do different things. And one thing this guy does that's just fantastic is he's a pit bull. When he gets you hurt, he does everything to get you down. Like he just swarms you. And he has a very sneaky good grappling game. Like if he gets you hurt, like I remember, who was it? It was his last victory by stoppage. I want to say Virio. I don't think it was Ferrer. I think it was Virio. Virio started to get up, and you could just see this very smoothly Pena do this trip, like this inside trip to get him right back down to the ground, pounding him out until the fight was over. It's just those small little techniques that you don't see very much from a 3-on-1 fighter that he's evolving very quickly. He lost his very first fight in some no-name fight league, and since then he's done 3 straight fights, all in LUX, 2 of them stoppages, 1 the split decision versus Manzano, and now he's getting ready to fight Kevin Morales at LUX 21. What do you know about Pedro El Xolo Pena?
Well, first of all, he's also a cool vato too to hang out with when you go down to Mexico.
Like it. He looks fun.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. And
shout out to him. He always likes anytime we post something that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's a cool dude, man. Shout out to El Xolo. But no, he's a tough dude, man. Really tough, really aggressive, and it, like you mentioned, it's those little details that you notice in those fights that kind of those sparks of brilliance, that you get that, and you're seeing that, and he's only going to develop that as he continues on his career. As you can see, LUX Fight League is really excited about having him on the roster. They're putting it on the UFC Fight Pass card. Fighters are 3-1, not a lot of experience, but he's definitely got a lot of talent going into this, a lot of potential, and that's what I really enjoy about going down there and seeing all these kids with all this potential, and then really capitalizing on that, and then getting into the UFC and just seeing the entire developmental process of that. It's fun, man. So I think Xolo here,
especially in your old weight class of bantamweight.
Yeah, especially at bantamweights. I always got my eyes on these guys. My competitive edge, I'm always like, oh, dude, put me in there. All right, let me get in on this. And it's
man, he would beat the crap. I'm just kidding.
He would, dude. He totally would, man.
Now maybe not 10 years ago, but now
maybe not Extremo, but for sure Alex. But maybe not Extremo.
Yeah, 26 years old. He's got you a little bit in the age range. He's got the package to be a star because he has charisma. Like he's oozing, like he's bleeding charisma. Like, you saw the last fight where, blood was flying by the 3rd round. Both guys were just like, wipe it on my chest. Let's go. And as a fan, like, it's not great for fighter longevity, right? Like, I think the one problem Xolo has is that he leaves himself open to shots. He's kind of one of those dudes who's like kill or be killed. And that doesn't always translate into longevity in the MMA game. For a while, you may be more skilled than the next guy, but when you're eventually going to get up to a person that can throw hands with you. And I kind of think about, like, just last weekend, we saw Makhachev and Bobby Green in the UFC, right? Bobby Green always has his hands down, right? He's always got his hands down. He's always like, I could get to you faster than you can get to me. And then he ran into Makhachev, who got to him faster than anybody else had gotten to him. And next thing you know, he's down and out.
I was watching that fight with my wife, and I was like, ooh, as soon as the fight hits the ground, it's over, honey. It's like, hit the ground. It's over. That's it. It's over. There's no way Bobby Green's going to get up. And, of course, he just never got up. There's just no.
And it's one of those things, like, Xolo tends to have his hands, like, medium. Not down, but it's never, like, covered up. He's always, like, medium because he wants to throw. He wants to be throwing. He wants to throw those leg kicks. He wants to throw those high kicks. He wants to be throwing and moving forward. He never wants to go backwards. That's good because sometimes, a lot of times, it keeps your opponent, like, on their back heels and not throwing back. But there will be an opponent that's like, I'm coming at you too, and let's see who falls. And that, unfortunately, is part of this game. So I think that's his only downfall. If he tightens up that defense, you see it a lot with also UFC fighters like Shane Burgos. But what Shane has done is he's learned to roll with punches. So even when he gets hit, he's rolling them so they're not hitting as hard, if that makes sense. I know a lot of fighters will understand that. As fans, we're like, you're still getting hit. But as fighters, like, you understand that sometimes you can get hit flush or you can hit not. I know I saw in the Manzano fight one time, Pena was coming in and Manzano all of a sudden caught him with a short elbow and rocked him back. I think it was in the first round. And it's just like that kind of dawned on me. I'm like, that can happen a lot. So that to me is his flaw. Do you see any other kind of flaws that he kind of has to work on?
Well, I mean that we got to tighten up the game, like exactly what you just said. You know, just tighten up the game, tighten up the striking, tighten up the technique. You know, there's some times, you know, like defending that takedown. That's going to be key to this fight. You know, is being able, and that's, you know, and having that those hands naturally down slightly a little bit will help you in that sprawl and that you know, getting those double unders so you don't get pinned up against the cage. So we get to see that. If you know, if he comes out there and he gets taken down, you know, he's got some jiu-jitsu that has helped him in the past. He's got a really good scramble game.
Like I said, he's got
So
sneaky good grappling because you don't see it, but you see it. Like you see it good.
yeah, yeah, he's got a good scramble. So we'll get to see that, and it'll be interesting to see how his career develops here at Luke's, because I think like you said, he's got a good shot of making himself known in the industry and getting the call eventually.
I mean, yeah, if he gets another stoppage, like another spectacular stoppage, you could see him on a Dana White Contender Series or something like that, because they're always looking for young, fun guys like that. Only problem, like you said, Kevin Morales, his last fight was a win by triangle choke, like arm triangle choke. So you know, he knows a little something on the ground. And I don't know much about Kevin Morales. He's only got 2 pro fights, not really much to see. They were both in LUX. I know you saw him fight at 19 just a couple shows ago. What do you think, like, challenges that Morales poses?
Well, it's that ground game. If he's going to be able to take him down and really hold him down, that's going to be the key to this fight. You wanna stop him. You got to take him down. You got to hold him. You got to pin him down there, and you got to do some ground and pound. You don't want to get him in the scramble. You don't want to give him a lot of space on the ground, and you know, you want to really put a lot of pressure on him. Keep him on his heels. That's what you want to do to win this fight.
So it looks like some fun fights we already got lined up for LUX 21. Of course, Alex will be down there in Monterrey calling the action with Francisco X. We'll talk about that more next week as we get closer. It is on March 18th. And as always, lately, the card is always subject to change. So hopefully some of these great action fights that we're talking about will happen. Next week, we'll probably pick a couple more fighters to take a look at, break down the card a little bit more. Anything else you want to add this week before we get out, Alex?
Irvin Amaya, Jose Raura is one of my keep an eye on. So do some research. Take a look at those guys, man. Those guys have some really good talent that I think could have fight of the night and future stars in Mexican MMA.
We might have to take a look next week at Alberto. I love the bigger guys that fight down in Mexico, because they always gotta do a little something extra special to get the attention, because all the little guys are stealing the attention down there. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Maybe we'll get a nice big knockout that we love to see. But it should be some fun stuff. For Alex, Extremo Soto, make sure you check out the Extremo collection on fightersfirst.shop. He's got the gear, also got the legendary Bruce Lee shirt. So make sure you check out all those. I'll tell you now, March 15th, these shirts right here, his shirt will still be there. These shirts, gone. They will be retired. I brought them back once. I'm going to retire them for good. Maybe a special event so once in a while. But you know what I'm saying. But for spring summer collection, we're going to come out with some really cool one. I already got a brand new retro style Bruce Lee shirt in there if you want to check that out. But we're doing some really cool stuff. I've been really inspired by some of these retro, not just the athletic club style, but just some of these really cool 70s, 80s style shirts that people tend to be in love with right now. So we're going to definitely feature a couple of those. You'll see them. You'll see a new Extremo shirt, I promise. Even if Alex doesn't like it, I'm going to put it in the shop. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Every fighter is a partner. It is fighters first. So check that out. For Crossing Borders, we'll see you next week. That's Extremo Alex Soto. I'm Mike Ginn, and we're out.